YouTube? This is Paul, the Inventory King. Hope everyone's doing well. I have a special guest joining me today to talk about the worst sickness that they have ever had with their fish. None other than Deb Tim, the Canadian girl. In the description below, there'll be a link to her channel. Make sure after the video you guys head on over there and subscribe to her channel. So again, she's going to be talking about the worst disease that she has ever had.
Hi everyone, this is Deb Tim, a Canadian girl. Hi Paul, thanks so much for inviting me to be part of your collaboration. It's always a pleasure to be on your channel and to work with you. So today Paul has asked that I share my worst experience with sickness in my fish keeping hobby. So this is really close to my heart. It was a devastating time in my life, and Paul was there helping me through it, so we go back a long way. Anyway, I want you to listen closely because this is some pretty serious stuff, and it's got a lot of good information that you really should take to heart. The first part of this video, you'll be seeing my 75-gallon Haps and Peacocks aquarium. About halfway through the devastation, I've already lost about half of my stock in this aquarium. So please stay tuned. And Paul, thanks again. A couple years ago, my 75-gallon Haps and Peacocks community tank became infected with a disease called columnaris. This sickness is known by other names as well, such as cottonmouth, mouth fungus, mouth rot, and saddleback. I normally always quarantine my fish prior to putting them into one of my own tanks. This particular time I purchased 8 beautiful, healthy-looking fish from a very reputable source who I have dealt with for years and felt it was safe to add them directly into my aquarium. This is what I got for it. The columnaris disease is a bacteria that will attack weak fish, fish that are stressed, living in poor water conditions, and not having their nutritional needs met. High bioloads, low oxygen levels, and poor shipping practices all contribute to the possibility of an outbreak. Columnaris will enter the fish through their gills, mouth, cuts, and other injuries. This disease is difficult to diagnose. It begins internally, attacking the organs. The fish will display signs of sickness such as heavy breathing, flashing, lethargy, and many other symptoms that concern us, but are not considered life-threatening. It takes about 3 days for the onset to show up on the skin. By the time there is visual evidence of a sickness, it's too late for the fish as their organs have sustained too much damage. Even when the first signs appear, it resembles many other ailments, so it's very hard to treat when you don't know what you're dealing with. It will show up as redness around the fins and mouth. You will also see white patches on the skin that begin to look like a cottony growth. As it attacks, the fish's fins will start to be eaten away. Lesions appear around the dorsal fin, giving it the saddleback name. Around the mouth and lips, it will look like their skin is peeling. Some fish die before they even show any outward signs of the disease, leaving you with one of those unexplained fish deaths. From 72 hours of the first visual indications, the fish usually die. Although this disease can progress much faster, killing an entire community within a few hours, or be drawn out for days. This was the first fish that had outward signs, and he was dead within 3 days of the first sign of sickness. Immediate actions include a water change, vacuum your substrate, up the salt content in your water, and treat the water with copper sulfate and an antibiotic. Be sure to remove the carbon from your filters until the course of treatment is complete. Before I knew what this was, my first response was to raise the temperature and up the salt content in the water. Unfortunately, warmer temperatures accelerate the progression of these bacteria. Although there is no indication that lowering the temperature will stop the disease, a temperature of 75 degrees is believed to help. There are other recommended treatments, but in my experience, you just have to allow it to run its course. Treatments that I used also play with your mineral content, which is vital to the health of your fish. When the water in your aquarium lacks the required minerals your fish need, your fish become weak. This disease attacks weak fish, so it's a no-win situation. I spent a fair amount of money on many different medications that were supposed to eradicate this disease. Nothing worked. What you are really treating is the earliest stages when the bacteria isn't visible yet. Once it's visible, there's been too much damage done. So what you are trying to do is save the fish that have no signs of the disease yet. These are photographs of all the fish I lost during this outbreak. Colmenares has a life cycle of 32 days. It will begin a new cycle every time another fish becomes sick. In time, I lost all of my fish except for 6. By the time this disease ran its course, this was under 2 weeks, but the longest 2 weeks of my life. These 6 cichlids survived, but having been exposed, were now carriers of the Colmenares bacteria. Rather than take a chance of contaminating my other tanks, I felt it was the safest and most humane option. I euthanized the last 6 fish, feeling that I couldn't put them with any of my other fish for fear of a new outbreak. It was a difficult decision and it broke my heart. In fact, I wasn't able to do it and my hubby did it for me. This dreadful disease can be spread by sharing nets among your tanks, containers, pails, and even handling food. Extreme measures must be taken to avoid cross-contamination. Prevention calls for always quarantining your new fish. No matter who or where you purchase your fish from, it is the #1 practice that you should follow without fail. I purchased 8 beautiful adult fish from a reputable source that I have complete faith in. This one time I didn't quarantine my new fish and it happened. The people worked with me as I went through this. They were hit as well, losing many fish themselves. My reason for not quarantining these fish was I didn't have room in my quarantine tank. Considering the source of my purchase and how healthy the fish looked, I took a chance. Even a Rubbermaid bin with a sponge filter will do as a quarantine tank. There are just no acceptable excuses. A few of the fish I purchased were just brought into the store from a patron. This is how they believe the bacteria entered the store. This is my 75-gallon Habston Peacocks community about halfway through this devastating outbreak. I have already lost about half the fish I had in this aquarium. Other safety measures that must be taken are that you use separate nets for each of your tanks or disinfect them after each use. It's imperative that you provide the best water quality you can. Make sure and feed your fish a well-balanced diet. And immediately remove any fish that show signs of sickness. This will go a long way in protecting your community and prevent the introduction and spread of many diseases, not just Colmenares. Finding out it was a bacteria and highly contagious, I began to take steps to avoid contaminating any other of my tanks. Unfortunately, I had a second aquarium hit as well and lost both entire communities. I was devastated, not just by the loss of my fish, but the heartbreak in seeing them suffer. and of course what it cost me financially. I was near the point of quitting. Without this amazing community of fish keepers, our fish family, supporting me and encouraging me, I'm not sure I'd still be in this hobby. So until next time, this is Deb Tim signing out. Thank you again, Paul, for having me. It's always a joy to work with you. I wish you all a wonderful day. I hope you've listened closely and will take my experience to heart. I would hate for any of you to go through this. I just want to give a great big shout out to this fish keeping community, fish fam out there, because we stick together. We help each other through this, through devastations, and we share our triumphs, and it's just a great community. So I thank all of you for being such great friends. So until next time, bye.
Deb, I want to say thank you so much for letting us know how that went, talking about it. I'm sure it was not easy, but again, thank you so much for joining me on this collaboration. And again, everyone, go to her channel and subscribe. A link is in the description below. Please like the video, guys. Please comment. Please subscribe and stay tanked.